Okay, again, we're talking about different foods all across the world, from Asia, Africa, China, Mexico, the Mediterranean, all those different type of foods that we see, okay? Now, there is a myth. A lot of times I go into restaurants and they tend to say, hey, we've been in business 20 years. We haven't had any issues. Now, I find that to be false. Nobody's perfect. Do you guys usually say that when your inspector comes out? We have no issues. Everything's perfect, right? You usually get 100? Okay, now, gambling with food safety could change a lot of things. You're dealing with consumers, you're dealing with people, and you're also dealing with your business, okay? You can find a lot of people getting sick behind, taking shortcuts, doing different things like that. So we want to facilitate, and we also want to train our employees. Now, whether it's cold holding, hot holding, cooling, different things like that, food prep, you don't want to gamble with that. You want to be mindful, all right? There's rules and regulations that we have to follow, and we don't want to put our business in any jeopardy or anything like that, okay? Now, we also had the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and they stated this early this morning. That states that 48 million cases of foodborne illness annually, yearly, okay? And 1 in 6 Americans each year get sick. We also have 128,000. We have 128,000 that are hospitalized and 3,000 that result in death, okay? It's a big number. And it all has to do with you guys and how you guys are facilitating in your establishments. So you just want to be careful. You don't want to gamble. How can we prevent foodborne illness? How can we prevent it? What can we do? I'm sorry? Sanitation, correct. What else? By what? Proper cooking, checking your temperatures, things like that. It's very important. Anything else? There's also magic numbers that we look at too. Danger zone. And that's ranging from in between 135 and 41 degrees. Anything between that, we have a potential of bacteria growing on those foods. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So, yeah, like I said, the magic number, holding hot foods at 135. Anything in between that, we have an issue. We have bacteria that can grow on there. E. coli, what else? What other bacteria are out there? Staph, salmonella, different things like that. It could hurt us. I don't like to go to the hospital. I'm sure you don't either. So like I said, 135 to 41 degrees, and I know this slide states 140. That's incorrect. It's between 135 and 41 degrees. That's the magical number. Now we have in Mexican dishes, stiff hand, bare hand contact. Do we use that in our establishments? Do we see that? No. So we're watching all of our employees while they're doing this prep and they're slicing, vegetables, fruits, vegetables, different things like that. Whether it's meat, you've never seen it. Have you ever caught your employees out there stiff handing, bare hand contacting? Not your employees, right? That's what we all say. That's what we all say. Until your regulatory comes in there and he says, hey, what is he doing over there? What is he doing? So we just want to be careful. Use a barrier, gloves, wax paper, tongs, different things like that. We want to use a barrier so that we're not spreading our crazy little germs, bacteria in between your fingers. And it all has to do with, proper hand washing as well. What is bare hand contact? What is it to you? You're using your plain hands, right? It's not about washing your hands and then going in there and, start prepping and you're touching this stuff. No, you're using your bare hands. And what happens when you use your bare hands? You Contaminate your product. You're right. That's a genius right there. You contaminate your product. Yeah, you got to use gloves. You got to use gloves and be mindful. We're human beings. You're scratching your head. You're rubbing your pants, your apron. You're doing a lot of things. You're going back and forth. There's a rush. This is lunch hour. You want to be careful. Always wash your hands. When you leave your prep station or wherever you're going out in the restaurant, make sure you always come back to washing your hands. And if you're going to go back to deal with raw food, make sure you're always washing your hands. Okay? Now, there's proper procedures. I'm going to go over a few with you. Hot water. Do we all have hot water in our establishments? Are we sure? Do we check that every morning when we open up? So why is it sometimes when we come in there and we check, we're like, hey, what's going on? It just went out. No, you're right. It just went out. That's what you guys usually say. But anyways, yeah, like I said, it's proper ways to wash your hands. You need hot water. You need to apply soap. And I'm not talking about just a little dab. Get you a nice lather. Lather your hands up. Don't be afraid of it. Get them between your fingers, your fingernails. Make sure those are clipped. We don't want any of this bacteria getting trapped anywhere, okay? So just be mindful. Third, 20 seconds. I know you guys probably heard of counting your ABCs or counting 20 seconds or whatever the case. That length of time is enough time for you to wash your hands and actually clean some of that bacteria off. Other than that, like I said, in between fingernails, between fingers, and rinse thoroughly with hot water again. And then lastly, use some kind of napkin. And then there is a new rule that I think Mr. Schaefer stated with using a barrier after you wash your hands. You got to use a barrier when you're leaving the restroom. These are surfaces that all have been contaminated by either you guys or the consumers that are coming in there. So use a barrier. Use a napkin when you open the door. Okay? You want to go in there like a doctor, pretty much. Because we're trusting you guys. We're trusting you with our food. We're trusting you, to keep us safe. And that's what my job is for. Asian delicacies. We have any Asian? Anybody from the community? Balu. Are you familiar with that? How do you cook and prepare that? Balu. The embryo that's not fully developed. Have anybody ever tried that before? No, we never tried Balu before? Me either. Me either. I've never tried it, and I probably will never, probably never will. But what I'm saying is a lot of these foods come in, and you go into the Asian restaurants and some of these Middle Eastern restaurants, and you see the stuff at room temperature. Room temperature, they say, hey, what's going on? Why is this sitting out like this? My customers like it like this. That's how they want it. Now, I know in some of these ethnic groups and some of these cultures, their immune system is a lot different. Okay? They can take a lot of food that we possibly can't. When you live over there, exactly. Yeah, if I were to go over there, it'd be a different story, right? You got to be mindful. Like I said, your immunities are a lot different. So some people can't handle this food. But there is rules. 41 degrees. Shrimp spring rolls. Sushi. Now you have the sushi. The rice is they're changing the pH. They're adding sugar and vinegar and things like that. But in between, what do you have? What do you have in between sushi? Fish? Is it cooked or is it raw? What is it? It's raw. And you're leaving this stuff out room temperature for us to eat. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. So all I'm pretty much saying is don't exceed the time frame, okay? When you bring it in, you want to hold it at 41. I'm going to get into time and temperature control next. How are these items prepared? Like I said before, sushi. They change the pH. They're putting crab, fish, different raw items in this food. Okay? So like I said, just be mindful of that temperature and holding it at 41 degrees. Okay, very important. That's the magic number. Hot hold, 135. Cold hold, 41. Fresh rice rolls with dried shrimp, mean bean sticky rice. Okay? This stuff comes in and set it out at room temperature. Sometimes you'll see it at 75.7 degrees, 70 degrees, 80 degrees. We don't know how long this stuff has been sitting out. You want to be careful. You also have the dry fish. You ever tried dry fish before? Has anybody ever tried dry fish? It's kind of like beef jerky, okay? But the thing about it is, it's not proven. There's no variance for it. How do we know that it's shelf stable? That you can just leave it out? We don't know. Now, I know back in Africa, it's okay. They can leave it out because my parents are African. I've seen this dry fish just sit out for days, just like bread. You know, but needless to say, just because I'm not getting sick from it doesn't mean you can't. We want to be mindful, and we want to respect the food code that we have at hand. Dry fish, smoked chicken. There's a little picture right here on the left. It says, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it says keep refrigerated. So why are you leaving it out? That's the question. Why are you leaving it out? It states specifically, keep refrigerated and cook at 165 degrees. So needless to say, you just want to be mindful again and again and again, and I keep repeating this because I want it to stick. 41 degrees. Don't hold this stuff at room temperature. You're threatening my life, your life, and your friends and family, and the consumers that love to come eat your food. HACCP. Who's familiar with HACCP? Yeah? What do you think about it? Yeah? Critical control point. You're right. 4 hours. I've gone in some donut shops, some Mexican restaurants, some African restaurants. Say, hey, how long are you leaving this stuff out? Oh, we just put it there. It's 30 minutes. Always I get that. They always say that when I go into these restaurants. I put it out. I just did. But why is it reading 80 degrees? It doesn't make sense. Did you just prep it? Did you just bring it out the walk-in cooler, the reach-in cooler? Why is it 80 degrees? Now, if I'm a forensic scientist, hey, we got some problems. We got some problems. 4 hours. That's the limitation. And there's proper procedures. And coming up in this next few weeks, I know that we're going to actually require all establishments to have a variance for this. Okay? So you're going to have the proper procedures that state you can keep this stuff out for 4 hours. So just keep that in mind as well. Time is public and health. How do I track my food time? How do you guys track your food time? Huh? You use timestamps? The Monday through Saturday, Monday through Sunday, the color-coordinated ones, the stickers, the adhesive stickers, which is good. We need to know. The less questions that I have for you when I go into your establishments, the better. Because I can see it. It's legible. It doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to go to the websites, Department of State Health, to get their little sample of their time and temperature control list or logs. First thing, when you remove it from a hot and cold station, you want to mark the temperature. You also want to mark the time when you remove it from hot and cold holding. You also want to make, discard times too as well. 4 hours, it's no good. This is just a little example here of time, temperature, public health. And you can get this from the Department of State Health. Just a little list. And like I said, it doesn't have to be pretty. You can actually write this yourself by hand. Indian cuisines. Where my Indians at? Are we in here? Okay. You have a restaurant? Okay. What kind of soups do we make? Curry? We make all of those delicacies? Yeah? How are we cooling our food? I just want to ask you, you got a mic? Somebody have a mic for him? I'm not trying to put you on the spot either. We're all in here together. We're just going to have some good fun. Okay? Exactly. It's all learning. So how do you cool your foods? Quick question.
Cool, we just put in the cooler.
Yeah, sounds good, huh? Yeah, when I usually go into restaurants, and I'm not trying to make fun or anything like that.
No, we put on shallow pan
So
for quick cooling, and then we put on the cooler.
okay, so are you using a cooling method?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is that? You just sit it out at room temperature,
No,
or
no.
you put it in the cooler?
No, we put on the tray,
Okay.
pan, and
pan.
put some ice below that.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Now we're together now.
Yeah.
All right? You can make an ice bath.
Yeah.
Add water, ice, put it in the tray. How many hours?
We do probably like 30 minutes, 45 minutes,
Okay.
depending the foods.
Depending on the type of food.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a little difference right there, okay?
Okay.
So what you want to do is you have 2 hours from that cook temperature to come down to 70 degrees. Whether you're using a ice bath or you're adding ice to your ingredients or you're stirring, you want to use a shallow pan, okay? And like I said, it's 2 hours, total 6. From that cook temperature, whether it's 165, 135, or whatever the case is, to 70 degrees. Once it hits 70 degrees, it's okay to put inside the walk-in cooler now. You have an additional 4 hours from that 70 degrees to go down to 41. Okay?
Okay.
So that's the right way to do it. You have the concept down, though, man.
Pretty much we do the same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's just the gist of it. There's proper procedures. And I wasn't trying to, point you out. I just want to hear what you had to say. All right? But other than that, like I said, we have proper procedures. Like I said before, whether it's 135 or above, you have a total of 2 hours for it to come down to 70 degrees. And then from there, you have a total of 6 hours from that 70 degrees to go down to 41 degrees, okay? Use shallow pans. And the reason why I'm saying that is because they expel heat a lot faster than these thicker pans. Separating food in smaller containers. It's also going to help to speed up the process. All right? Using rapid cooling methods. A blast chiller. You don't have to have one of those. I don't know how much those cost. It's probably really expensive. But like I said, you can just do the basics. All right? Use containers that facilitate and transfer heat. The ones that are porous, that have holes in it. Now we're going to have Muhammad Monk break down some of the common violations for you guys. I just want to thank you guys for coming out.
All right, thank you. Can y'all hear me? Oh, is it good? Is it on? Anyways, so my colleague here went over a lot of these with y'all already. We're just going to quickly go through some more of the common violations we see in ethnic establishments. So one more time, can y'all tell me again, when you keep food cold, what temperature is it at? 41, and when you keep it hot? Y'all are great. All right, let's see here. So, like we've been stated repeatedly, you want to make sure you keep your food cold at 41, and when you keep it hot at above 135. An exception you can make is for raw eggs. You can keep those at 45, but generally it's better not to worry about it and just keep those as cold as possible. One thing you want to make sure that you're doing is checking temperature consistently, especially with your hot hold items. A lot of the times, especially if you have a buffet or something where you keep food hot for a long time, you want to check those temperatures consistently because those can vary as time goes by. And everyone got a thermometer today, right, in their bag. So that you want to make sure you're checking those periodically every couple hours. Here's some examples of some violations we've seen with cold and hot holding. Y'all can't really see them too well, but just know that when we come do inspections at establishments, this is how we check and make sure everything's in compliance as far as temperature goes. So you see there on the left, that chicken's at 105, and you don't know how long it's been there for. So you want to make sure that all your potentially hazardous foods are being kept at safe temperatures. Now, when I say potentially hazardous foods, what do I mean by that? Can y'all tell me? So that's talking about your raw meat, raw eggs, anything that can go bad, basically. Cooked food as well. Once it's cooked, you want to make sure you're keeping that at good temperatures. Next, we have cross-contamination. Can anyone tell me what's wrong with this picture over here on the left? So the raw eggs over the onions. So why is that a problem? Yeah, because it's at a different cooking temperature than the onions are. So when you're cooking those onions and you got an egg cracked above it and it falls in there, it's not all the bacteria is not gonna get cooked out properly. So you might be getting a side of salmonella with your onions. So you want to definitely be careful with cross-contamination in your establishment. And we got y'all a magnet you can put in your coolers for your employees to know about storage levels. Generally, we want to keep ready-to-eat foods like onions, other vegetables, fruits, cheese, anything like that that you can eat without preparation. You want to keep that either on top of the cooler or to one side, away from these raw, potentially hazardous foods. Additionally, with cross-contamination, when you're preparing food, like for example, when you're cutting chicken and you go straight to cutting vegetables, that's also a no-no for the same reason. Because you want to keep those, you don't want to cross-contaminate raw and ready-to-eat foods like that. So just kind of be mindful, and if you're going from one step to another, make sure you're cleaning, sanitizing your utensils properly. Here we have some more examples. Similarly with eggs, definitely you want to make sure you're monitoring your storage levels in your coolers and in your establishment, so we can prevent foodborne illness. Another thing we see often is labeling. Does anyone have to deal with this regularly with their prepackaged foods? So with labeling, generally we're talking about pastries or other things that you're making at the establishment and packaging for self-service. So for example, if you go to like a bakery and they have their cookies like wrapped up or in packages and they have them out like in the in the dining area for people to grab, you want to make sure that they're labeled with the common name of the food, list of ingredients, the net weight, all the name and place of the business or where it was manufactured, and like how much the quantity of the contents. And so you don't need to necessarily put the nutritional facts on there unless you're saying that this is beneficial for your health. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers labeling. You just want to make sure, especially with the ingredients, that you list any allergens present in the food. That's what we're mainly looking out for. Because if somebody has a food allergy and they're grabbing one of these pastries or what have you, and they're allergic to nuts, they could have a severe reaction to it, and we want to make sure we can avoid that if all possible. So here's some examples of some prepackaged foods without labeling. We have some like sweets in the bottom left corner that aren't necessarily labeled with the ingredients and place of business and all the requirements necessary. Now I'm going through these kind of quickly because we want to answer as much of y'all's questions as possible. So if you have anything, please make sure you write it down on a slide or ask me at the end. Next we have date marking. With date marking, if you prepare an item, how long do you have before you have to get rid of it? 7 days? Yes, that's correct. So so when y'all date mark, how do y'all do it? You just write the date down and stick it on there, or do you have like a system? Because I've seen all kinds of stuff out there. I'm kind of interested to know. Anyone? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and I found that that's usually the best way. Getting a piece of tape, writing the date on it, and then 7 days from the day that you cooked it, just getting rid of it. That's probably the easiest way. I know most of y'all go through it a lot quicker than that, but it's definitely something that you want to be mindful of because it can get confusing when you're making a high volume of food. Next, we're going to talk about food contact surfaces. Can anyone tell me what this is right here? It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, it's a deli slicer. It's the deli slicer without the blade. So that's one thing that you got to check, and a lot of people just forget about it because you don't take it apart as often as you should maybe. But well, yeah, so that's what it looks like if you don't clean it. So, with your food contact surfaces, that's anything that's touching food. Any utensils, cookware, your ice machine. Famously in Houston, y'all know Marvin Zindler. Your soda nozzles, anything that is touching things that you consume, eat or drink. You want to make sure those are clean and sanitary to sight and touch. So basically meaning that if you can see some kind of growth on there, like in this example, then you definitely need to clean it. You need to clean it before you get to this point, to be honest. But definitely make sure you're staying mindful of your food contact surfaces. And then, so you also want to make sure they're in good repair, meaning they're free of chips, scratches, dents. So I have some examples here. You can see that cutting board on the bottom is got a lot of pitting in it, like a lot of marks that, and it's not easily cleanable. So it's very difficult to get rid of all that, all of those marks and potential bacterial growth. So at that, if your cutting board looks like this, you definitely need to get rid of it. Also, you can see that that pan on the top. I don't know how they were cooking with that, but if your pan looks like that, don't cook with it. Generally, with your food contact surfaces, you want to make sure they're free of any kind of breakage, because that can fall into your customer's food. I went on a complaint once. This lady was eating some fish. It was fried in a fryer basket and had a piece of the fryer basket in it. Excuse me. Had a piece of the fryer basket in it, and she messed up her mouth pretty bad. So you definitely want to make sure that all your food contact surfaces are in good repair so you can avoid any of those kind of issues. And next we have consumer advisories. Does anyone here have to deal with this on their menu? So generally with these, it's for items that are raw or undercooked. So for example, you have your eggs over easy or your sushi, or if you're making steaks or burgers made to order, you want to make sure that you have advisory on your menu or somewhere in your establishment stating that there's a risk of disease for that rare meat or undercooked eggs, seafood, shellfish, etc. Also, kind of in that vein, with your buffets, if you have a buffet, you want to make sure you have an advisory somewhere in your establishment saying that you need a clean plate every time. And again, that's to prevent contamination. So make sure, I guess that's it. Thank you guys all for coming. We really appreciate you guys coming out. If y'all have any questions, we can go ahead and address those here, I think. There you go. All right. You want to take some of these? Yeah, I'll take some.
Why can't we leave foods out more than 4 hours? I thought we talked about that. It's the potential of bacteria growing on there. This has been tested. Somebody took their time out to test to see if bacteria can grow. So that's another reason why we can't keep foods out more than 4 hours. Okay? I just want to be clear on that. Why do we have to date mark for 7 days? Again, this has also been tested. Do you eat your leftovers? 7 days, 14 days? Or you discard them? Is it going to taste the same? You think your customers will tell the difference? Yeah. The potential for bacteria growth is there. That's why we recommend that you guys discard it within 7 days.
I can take this next one here. So how do we please our customers' requests without getting violations? Specifically, I think this might be referring to the room temperature stuff, maybe, or if not, you can correct me. So you can get a variance for that, for those spring rolls and everything that we saw earlier. You can get a variance for that and keep it under that time control if you'd like. And if you have any questions about that, you can talk to one of us afterwards, and we'll be happy to walk you through the process. Let's see what else we got. How do we go down on the thing? Can we use this for it?
It's not even on the same.
Yeah. Here, go Alt Tab real quick. Hold
facilitating this? Was it just 3 questions?
I'm trying to scroll it. Hey, we can just take your question like that if you don't mind.
How do you get back to that? Yeah, we're trying to get to this page, but it's not even showing it on this page. Okay, it's separate. Do you have any questions out here?
Yeah. In our establishment, we have I guess we're changing the rule where you have to use the barrier to actually turn the faucet off or open the door. In our establishment, we have to actually have the forearm thing planted on each restroom door that we actually use our forearm to open that up. Should I get rid of that or what?
So you have a forearm.
We bought it from, I guess, Ecolab. It's the hook. So it's already up there, so we're not using our hands, but we just stick our forearms up
Okay.
to pull and open the door up. So
Okay.
do I have to get rid of that or what?
Well, I can really challenge that. Tell you the truth. And the reason why I say that is, you guys are doing prep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people have hairy arms. Am I right or wrong? Okay. Are we washing all the way up to our elbows? All the time? It's usually our hands, right? So you're saying within the establishment, you guys are facilitating that this area is totally clean at all times. You're bumping you're opening doors, you're doing different things. Some things that we do naturally, we just do it naturally. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I would probably get rid of it. All right? We just want to cover all ends. Any other question? What do I do if my customers do not want the cold sushi? They want the soft rice. I don't want to tell you to tell them to go somewhere else, but you want to let them know the possibility. That's what the consumer advisory is for. All right? You want a food a special way, you want it undercooked, you want it this way, you want it that way. You got to risk possibly your life. So you just want to make them aware. If that's something that they want, that's fine. But when we come in your restaurant and we're checking temperatures and it's off temperature, regardless of whether your customers like it or not, you're going to get a violation for it. Okay? How do you? What's that? You just scroll up out here? If I freeze my food for 2 days, do I still have to throw it out in 5 days? No. It's frozen. It stops the time. Okay? You do not have to throw it away. But when you do take it out, you can't refreeze it again. Okay? That time starts. That's dead and done. If it's frozen, you stop the time. Okay? You're increasing the shelf life when you're freezing the food. So no, you do not have to throw it away. Are we allowed to use fly swatters? I don't recommend it. No, do not use fly swatters. Get pest control to come in there and let them take care of it. So you might swat a fly on my plate, okay? So no fly swatters. And none of those little deals that hang off the ceiling, the little fly tape, the fly catchers. You got that stuff hanging all over prep tables and different things like that. And I don't want fly for breakfast, tell you that. I don't. Are we allowed? Well, no, I'm sorry. I asked that question. Are we going up? We have any other questions? Yes.
If I buy a case of frozen meat
Uh-huh.
and I need to divide it, okay, it's frozen when it comes from the store. When I take it to my establishment, it's frozen.
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
need to divide it in two
Okay.
because I'm not going to cook the whole case, the whole 80 pounds.
Okay.
Some of them come already, separated in 4 different bags, but some of them don't.
So you want to portion it. You want to portion it yourself.
And then label it and then put it in my freezer. But am I risking putting it back in the freezer when it has thrown out a
Well, it's
little?
already frozen. So this is the thing. I've seen it a lot where food is actually frozen. Okay, and you can portion it with one of those cutting saws, still in its frozen state.
I don't have a frozen. I don't have a
I
saw.
know you don't. I bet you don't. You got to use a lot of arm force to get your knife through that. But other than that, yeah, if it's still in,
Guys to do that, right?
yeah, get the guys to do it. There you go.
Yeah,
But if
okay.
it's still in its frozen state, if I can answer your question, if it's still in its frozen state, you're fine. Portion it out, okay? Put it back in the freezer before it thaws out.
Right.
All right?
So I don't wait till it thaws out.
No, don't wait. Don't wait. Don't thaw it out because once you thaw it out, like I said before, you don't want to do that. You can't refreeze it again.
So that saw that you're talking about is like a special saw for me?
It's a special saw. HEB has them. There's a lot of other
not
restaurants.
HEB.
I know, but
I'm a
you
little-
can probably go online and get one. Get an aftermarket one.
I will.
All right? And I can help you. I'll give you my card when we leave. We got one more question?
I like to know when you're holding food, hot food, at 135,
Yes, ma'am.
does the 4 hours apply to it, or it can be a little longer?
Once you're holding it at 135, you're fine.
Oh, okay.
Where the 4 hours comes into play is when you're leaving it out at room temperature. And that's what I was telling you guys before. You have to have a variance. You're going to have to get that from us. We have a plan review team that actually states that, okay, this is okay. You can hold it out for 4 hours. Whether it's kolaches, cooked shrimp, things like that, you have a 4-hour limit. If that answers your question. Okay. I think that's it. Again, I want to thank you guys for coming out to the second annual Food Safety Summit. Claps are fine if you want to clap. Thank you. Thank you.